What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about The Banshees of Inisherin. Written and directed by McDonagh, this film stars people like Colin, Farrell, Gleeson, Barry Keoghan, and has beautiful cinematography from Ben Davis, and tells the story of a friend who decides he no longer wants to be best friends with his lifelong friend. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another video. I just got home from the movie theater from checking out this new movie. I actually wanted to go check out the new One Piece movie, but it wasn't part of the AMC A-list thing, and yeah, I just don't have money right now for extra movie tickets at the moment, so I decided to go and check out this movie, which I had heard some pretty good things about. I saw some pretty good reviews and good scores on various sites, things like Letterboxd as well as Rotten Tomatoes, and I saw that Colin Farrell was the lead role in the film, which in and of itself already had me hooked and ready to go check out the movie. Going into it, I had zero knowledge on what this movie was about at all. I did not watch a trailer, I did not see anything about it, and I just saw some images in general, the poster, and just knew, okay, it looks like it takes place on some sort of island that's going to be a small, secluded kind of thing, and that's pretty much what you have here. It takes us back to the 1920s during the Civil War, off to a small island that is off the coast of Ireland, and yeah, we hone in on a very small scale story here about a friend who one day just decides to no longer want to be friends with his other best friend. And so the person who's kind of being dumped in this situation is played by Colin Farrell, and over the course of the film we start to learn that he's a bit of a pretty straightforward, nice guy. He's a guy who doesn't really know all that much, he's not the brightest guy, he doesn't really bring a whole lot to the table, but he is 110% loyal as a friend and is just a nice guy that wants to sit around and be your friend and spend time with you. And this is a movie that I think I'll need to see another time and watch other people talk about it, and honestly just talk about it with others to really hone in my thoughts on. So I want to make that abundantly clear while I'm reviewing this, because this is one of those situations where I've left the theater and thankfully, I had the drive, and my fiance and I were talking through the movie and trying to dip our toes into the symbolism and try to figure out what worked in this movie for us, what didn't work, and trying to find the symbolism in the narrative. But ultimately, as I'm sitting here reviewing it, there still is a bit of an unsettled element in terms of my overall opinion on this film in my mind. I found this film to be beautifully made, and on so many levels when it comes to the technical elements of this film, I thought it was pretty much flawless. I mentioned earlier that there's beautiful cinematography from Ben Davis, and I think that this film without a doubt looks stunning with a lot of beautiful use of natural lighting and locations and practical sets and settings that ultimately made this film feel very unique to its location, feel alive. It was vibrant, and visually I found this film was stunning. Beyond that, the performances are top tier throughout the entire film, with Colin Farrell giving a completely compelling lead performance and Gleeson also being a fantastic other performance that's in this film. The two of them without a doubt are the standouts in this film, and I found myself really engaged in their characters and the overall story. This is a movie also that by the time I got to the end, I found myself thinking that the character development was done very well, that the overall again, technical elements of how this film was written, how it was performed, the nuances of performance, the small lines of dialogue, the dialogue itself, all of that I found to be really masterfully done. And by the end of the movie, like I said, I had a feeling of being satisfied in terms of the actual characters. This film is also really funny. Throughout the course of the film, I found myself laughing at tons of small little moments, a lot of humor that's very specific to Irish individuals in terms of the things that they'd say or the inflections in their voice, but I thought that they handled all of that really well. So when it comes to the technical elements of this film, I think that this film is beautifully and masterfully made. And I think as a fan of film, without a doubt, this is a film I think you should watch just for those elements alone. And if you can catch it on the big screen, I think that definitely heightened the experience of being more engulfed in this narrative. This movie at its core really has a lot of themes and a lot of symbolism going on throughout it. As I mentioned, I feel like I'm still kind of working through all the symbolism on certain things, because I don't feel like this film, if I'm leaning into some of my negatives now, fully hit the landing 100% or stuck the landing. There were a couple of elements where I felt should have been developed a little bit more, or I kind of wish that certain things were a little bit more straightforward. But as a fan of film as well, I do appreciate when something kind of has, you know, something that can be broken down by different people and kind of viewed in a different way. And I think ultimately this film had that. You know, you have this guy played by Brendan Gleeson who just no longer wants to be friends with Colin Farrell's character. And we learn not too long into the film, it's pretty much because he just feels like he's dull and doesn't really add much to his life. And Brendan Gleeson's character wants to, you know, he wants to kind of create a legacy for himself, and he kind of feels like he's sitting around with Colin Farrell's character, wasting a lot of his time, wasting a lot of his life, and isn't really kind of doing things in his own life to make a mark so that years from now he's remembered for more than just being a nice guy. And so then you have Colin Farrell's character kind of struggling with this, and he's really just trying to be the best friend he can to this guy, doesn't understand why this guy no longer wants to be his friend after a lifelong beautiful friendship, even if a lot of their friendship has been just going to the pub, hanging out, and having a lot of discussions. This film has a lot of layers when it comes to the idea of, you know, spending time with people in our lives who maybe don't add a whole lot to our lives. And is it wrong of us to want to push them away at a certain point, even if they're good people, so that we can kind of start to maybe be more productive in our own lives? And then on the flip side, you know, there's sometimes the way that other people are affected when you do push them out of your lives. You know, you could have beautiful people that mean well that ultimately can turn into dark and, you know, a little bit more cynical people as time goes on. And then there's people in the mix of all of this that are, you know, hopeful and kind and, you know, don't necessarily have that cynicism in them yet, but are watching this world around them filled with a bunch of people who are unfulfilled, and ultimately you have to make a decision on where they want to take their life, if they want to sit in their misery and despair, or if they want to do some sort of action to kind of get themselves out of that situation. Does it hurt you? Does it hurt other people? Will you have a situation where you cause damage to yourself in order for you to get to certain places? Is it worth it in the end? It definitely has a lot of symbolism and a lot of metaphors and a lot of things that we were kind of breaking down on the car trip here, and a lot that I feel I still don't fully grasp. So I wanted to talk that out here on the channel so you guys can recognize where I'm coming from with this review. I feel like after I do this video, you know, this is more of a right out of the theater, you know, kind of only had about 15-20 minutes in the drive to think about my thoughts on this movie, to sit here and talk about it. So this is a little bit right after the movie, kind of quick thoughts, but this is a movie I think my opinion will slightly start to alter as the days go on, as I think more about it, as I watch other people's reviews, maybe read some reviews, and talk to some others who have seen the film. I think this film is beautifully and masterfully made on a technical level, on a filmmaking level, on a writing level, on a humor level, on a character level. There was so much that was done so well here, but ultimately I did find it to be sometimes jam-packed with so many things that felt symbolic or metaphorical that sometimes I feel like it trips on its own feet. Beyond that, my biggest honest issue with this film would be the fact that I found it to be really slow. I found that the pacing at times had my eyes feeling super heavy or my eyelids feeling super heavy, and there were a couple of times where I thought to myself, as much as I'm enjoying the characters and the story and the craftsmanship that we're seeing on screen with this film, there were a lot of moments where I found myself thinking in my head, I'm kind of feeling a little bit bored. So as a fan of film, as somebody who loves all those things that I've praised in this review, I'm able to, you know, put aside the bored feelings from time to time to be able to talk about this film in the way I have up to this point before I even mentioned the fact that I was feeling bored in this movie. However, I feel like it's still something I should mention because I think that most moviegoers, the casual moviegoer who's going to be entertained, may not enjoy this. I think if you are a fan of more artsy films, if you're a fan of film in general and you like seeing, you know, things that take a risk, that aren't trying to be overly entertaining and loud and exciting, and you want a bit of a more quiet period piece film that really hones in on beautiful filmmaking and dialogue and a lot of symbolism to tell a story, there's a lot to be enjoyed here. But I do recognize that even though I might say that this is a good movie and that I do recommend it, I don't think everybody is going to love this film, and this may bore or turn off certain individuals who don't necessarily have this in their taste. I'll just put it that way. So yeah, that's gonna be my thoughts on this movie. I definitely want to hear what plenty of others have to say about this. So if you've seen it, please leave comments down below. What was your takeaway from this film? What was the biggest symbolic element of this film that you took away from the narrative? I definitely want to hear the different takes that people have on this movie, and I'll definitely be checking out more people's reviews after dropping this one. So again, a big thanks to you guys for watching. Hit that like button, comment your thoughts, subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.